Okay, so continuing with the explanation. So again, just to show you, here's the pattern. Again, I'm working on my armature sock. I'm sorry, appendages sock. Then I have my arms. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn this back around. And I need my ears. Now, go ahead, and sometimes it's harder to see if you don't draw at large scale your image. You need to think about scaling your appendages to the correct size. So if you want your ears to be huge, fine, make them huge. But again, and I'll just go ahead, just for the sake of being easier for you guys to see, on here I'm going to go ahead and just draw where I want my neck. And I'll go ahead and I'll draw in black, but just know that you're not cutting the neck out, okay? Don't forget that. So here's my butt. Okay. So I'm going to draw my neck about right there. Okay? And then again, I'm going to measure my torso right there. This is about where I'm going to cut off my legs. Now, for my little feet, I'm going to do something different. Skipping back to this. Instead of just having legs, what they're going to end up looking like when I sew them, instead of sewing this part right here, right there, and just sewing it straight across, and if I did that, what it would look like would be, if I turned it, it would look like that. Okay? What I want it to, and I'm going to zoom in on that for you real quick, just so you can take a really close gander. Okay, so that's really what it would look like if I went ahead again and just cut this straight across, or curved it a little bit, which you can. What I'm going to do is I actually want my foot to look like that on the bottom. It's going to be actually like circular on the bottom. Okay, but from this point of view, and take it as I have the leg tilted. Okay, so do you see how it curves around? That's what I'll end up with mine. Just because I want them to have like flat feet. Also, because they're hooves, I'll end up probably adding black fabric here. And then it'll be flat. And it'll look like an actual hoof. If you have something different, like a penguin or a person, this is more what you want to do. If you have something with hooves, then you can do it like this. That's fine. And it's really your choice. You do it how you want to do it. That is the beauty of creativity and artistry. It's all yours. Okay, so again, going back to appendages. And bear with me. Anytime I think of something that you might need to know, I kind of skip back. Alright, so I have my body sock. And the reason why I went ahead and drew my head is because I'm going to draw my ears now. I really want to think about the size that I wanted my ears to be. So if this was my head and it's stuffed, I probably want my ears to be about that big. So when I draw them on my appendages sock, I need to draw them about that big. Okay, in fact, if you're not sure about the size, it's better to go ahead and draw it bigger. Then if you don't like the size, you can cut it down a little bit more. That's fine. But if you make it too small, there's no way to make it bigger except for cutting out a whole new piece. So again, I'm going to want it about that big. Alright. I want my ears pointy. Again, I'm going to go ahead and go bigger than what I expect. Also, you have to think about seam allowance. What I mean by seam allowance is when you start sewing, if you have two pieces of fabric, when you sew it, and say the other fabric is on that side, you're sewing it a little bit away from the actual edge of the fabric. The reason why you do that is if you sewed it right on the edge of that fabric, what's going to happen is that thread's actually going to tear through the edge. So again, you need to have a seam allowance to where you're actually sewing a little bit away from the fabric. So when you actually turn it inside out to make the nice seam on the outside, it's actually going to be a little bit smaller. Okay? Again, going back, I'm going to go ahead and do my second ear. And I'm touching. And the reason why I'm doing the ears on the edge right here, and the same thing with the arms, is if I draw it right here against the edge of my sock, this is one less edge that I actually have to sew. So the only thing that I'm going to have to sew to put my arms together is this right here, and then going all the way down. Okay, then I would stuff it, and we'll get there. But again, if you put it next to the edge, that's one less thing that you have to sew. Okay, so I have my ears. I'm going to refer back to my drawing of my pattern. And the next thing that I need to go ahead and add is my tail. Alright, so for my bevo, I want to refer back to my original sock creature sketch, so that way I know how long I think I want it. Now you should have a front, a side, and a back, or you need to have a front, above, and below view. This will help you figure out where you need to sew things. If I'm just looking at this, I'm not going to know, okay, I need to sew his tail on his actual butt. Okay, so his tail is actually going to be kind of long. And again, I'm going to draw it longer and a little bit bigger than what I actually need, because if I need to take some off, I can. Then I'm also going to draw on this part that I'm going to fray. Start down here. Make it a little bit thicker than what I actually need. Also, sometimes when you're just cutting along, you make mistakes, or the socks, they don't lay perfectly flat, and they get kind of wonkety. Alright. And this, I'm going to put that right there. This is where I'm going to fray it. And that just tells me. This reminds me. Okay, so now that I have my pattern, I am ready to cut. Okay, you need to double check your pattern on your sock against your drawing, and then you may begin.